sometimes actions speak louder than words.
So Fighting Force 2 is an interesting beast. It's a very notorious game, being a sequel to a very popular PlayStation game, Fighting Force 1, which was a 3D beat-em-up in the style of something like Streets of Rage. This built a lot of anticipation for the game, but when one actually sits down and plays it, it's much less of a linear beat-em-up experience and more of a mission-based action game, something more akin to Siphon Filter. Sadly, as far as mission complexity and mechanic polish goes, Fighting Force 2 fails. The controls are a little clunky. You use a single analog stick to move around, so hitting side to side will slowly rotate you. Forward and backward move you okay, but overall, when you're in a crowd and you're fighting lots of guys, it's very difficult to get a beat on any single one and face them and fight them. You have some digital buttons that allow you to quickly switch directions, turning 180 degrees, but it doesn't really act as a good replacement for being able to have full fluid control over your character and be able to reorient yourself with a certain level of agility, something you'd be used to seeing in a side-scrolling beat-em-up.
Better make this good.
Despite this unfortunate combination of high expectation and mediocre execution, Fighting Force 2 does have some interesting qualities to it. The aesthetics, the narrative choices, and the characters you see in the game are very masculine. It's a big, tough, dumb action game. Your guy talks kind of like this, like a tough guy that's gonna shoot the bad guys with bullet guns. And all the conflicts are very simple, like it's a big corporation that's going to make clones or develop high-tech tanks, otherwise being this almost early 90s, late 80s style capitalist warmongering company that's going to take over the world. They're very simple conflicts with very easy solutions, which is essentially shoot or punch your way through it. This adds a certain level of humor to me, certain cheesiness. I'll pick it up and you'll have a line read that's supposed to be taken straight about how you're going to beat up the bad guys, and you can't take it seriously. You're just laughing. You're like, yeah, sure you are. Yeah, of course they're building tanks. They're driven by super monster clones. Yep, got it. It's almost endearing in that way then. The mediocrity of the game itself is forgivable because of how endearing the themes are. The game is also very easy to play. The combat mechanics are relatively simple, and if you understand where the enemies are coming from or how to deal with a specific combination of enemies in a wave, you can pretty much blow through the game. I've only played through the first 3 levels, but I did so with very little difficulty. And in the case of the bosses at the end of each of these 3 stages, I was able to just stun lock them and kill them without any issue. And what this leads to is me as a player playing purely to see what happens next. There's no expectation for challenge. There's no expectation for the levels themselves to be complicated or to surprise me, but I want to see where that machismo goes. I want to see what this big dumb action movie does next. It's like watching a bad movie, and because of that, I like Fighting Force 2. I don't think it necessarily deserves the hate it gets. It's certainly not a good game if you were just to objectively view it. It doesn't have qualities of a highly polished game, like interesting mechanics or skill trees or involved level design. But the sum of the parts does make something interesting and something special. Especially for a budget title, it would definitely be worth a pickup. You give yourself the weekend and you just sit down, kick back, relax, and let Fighting Force 2 take you on this ridiculous adventure. It's a distraction. It's definitely a game I wish I could have beaten for this month. One, to get the season set points, obviously, but also because as I started playing it, I was really enjoying it. It was relaxing. If the season set combinations work out, I will definitely pick it up and try to complete it next month.